Hi, my name is Anousha Narayanan and I'm from Mumbai, but I currently live in Singapore. My Polygence mentor was Arnel Blake Patoon, and my project is about the ethics of Advanced Euthanasia Directives in cases of cognitive impairment, which I'll be exploring using philosophical theories of personal identity. I chose to look at this topic because I'm interested in medical ethics and wanted to explore the subject beyond what I'd learned in school. Euthanasia is a form of assisted dying which allows patients in certain extreme conditions the option to end their suffering by either withholding treatment or administering lethal medication at the patient's request. It is currently not legal in a majority of nations. In those which it is legal, there's a thorough process that must be undertaken before euthanasia can be conducted. This involves clear consent from the patient, and in cases in which the patient knows that their condition will lead to cognitive impairment and a loss of decision making abilities, there exists the option to sign an Advanced Euthanasia Directive. The case study which my project concerned took place in the Netherlands, so it'll be useful to look over some of the policies surrounding euthanasia in the Netherlands. There's an expansive list of due care criteria that physicians must follow in cases of euthanasia, and a review board called the RTE reviews all of these cases to ensure that euthanasia is conducted safely, consensually, and ethically. If the patient doesn't require an advance directive, oral contracts may be used as an alternative. Now, onto the case study in question. Mrs. A was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and having seen the effects that such a condition can have, she was certain that she did not want to experience this fate. She penned an advance directive stating that she wanted to undergo euthanasia when her condition worsened to the point where she needed special care and could not stay at home anymore. She eventually changed the condition to be when the quality of her life was quote unquote poor. As her mental health deteriorated, she began expressing the desire to go through with the procedure to her caregivers, but when asked about it formally, would contradict herself. Eventually, her physicians and geriatricians determined her condition had progressed far enough for her directive to be applicable, and with her family's consent, went through with the procedure. However, she did express towards the end of her life that she did not want to be euthanized, and the review board ruled that this was a case of unethical euthanasia that should not have been conducted. I completely agree with this ruling, but I will admit that in situations concerning cognitive impairment, it is incredibly difficult for physicians to determine whether they should be following an advanced directive or the patient's current wishes. I believe that the patient's current wishes should always be prioritized, and I will support this stance through two different philosophical theories of personal identity. The central dilemma of this case mirrors a popular one in the study of personal identity, the then self versus now self problem. If Mrs. A's past self maintained that she wanted euthanasia to be conducted at a certain point in time, but her present self, which existed at that point in time, held the exact opposite belief, how do we know which version's belief should be respected? The psychological continuity theory holds a solution. It states that a person remains the same individual over a period of time so long as they retain a continuous chain of psychological connection through overlapping memories and causal connections between mental events. Due to Mrs. A's condition, she was unable to maintain this psychological connection, and her then self and now self are therefore completely different identities. Although there were still connections between her then self and now self, her state of mind was simply too fragmented for herself to be considered the same person as she was when she signed the directive. Therefore, according to the psychological continuity theory, the directive was effectively enacted on a completely different person than the one who signed it, making its execution completely unethical. While the psychological continuity theory dealt with rationality and cognitive function, animalism, another popular theory of personal identity, states that even if these functions aren't intact, an individual can still retain their identity over time. To understand animalism's application in this case, the distinction between the terms rational being, human animal, and physical body must be understood. The physical body is just that, the flesh and blood which physically makes us all up. The human animal is the physical body in addition to the consciousness and the ability to feel, while a rational being is the human animal with higher level mental faculties, such as the ability to reason. According to animalism, the persistence of identity is tied to the persistence of the human animal. This means that it doesn't matter if a patient loses their cognitive abilities, they are still the same person so long as they are alive. But I would argue that the euthanasia in this case was still immoral if we assume that Mrs. A remained the same person throughout, because people's wishes can change over time, and her current wishes should have therefore been prioritized because it was her current self, not her past self, who was being euthanized. Regardless of whether she was able to think rationally or not, and regardless of whether she could be considered the same person or not, the fact that she clearly expressed wishes to not undergo euthanasia should have been a clear indicator for the procedure to not have been conducted. Euthanasia is an extreme and permanent measure, and although Mrs. A's case was tragic, it sparked several important discussions surrounding the topic and paved the way for further policy. Thank you.